Hello everybody, this is the Vikstrand, and this week it is the week of Christmas. Can't feel the joy and spirit of Christmas in the air. That might be because you're left alone and you're still upset that the Expendables 3 didn't perform well at the box office. Why was this? It was leaked online, was that? Why it was underperforming at the box office? I think that the boneheaded decision of making this movie a PG-13 movie contributed to the poor box office rate, but I also think that we were suffering from a slight condition of franchise fatigue. But those things doesn't really matter that much to me, because if a movie is a success, then you're gonna have sequels, you're gonna have to share. If the movie is a flop, then you get to keep it to yourself. You don't get to see the characters worn out or anything like that, and I felt that was going on here. It's part of the reason why I think this is a lackluster movie, but it is by no means the entire reason. We're gonna take a look at today at the movie The Expendables 3 and find out just why this was a bit disappointing for me. Barney Ross and his merry band of slightly too old action stars are back again for another go at killing people. They get sent to Somalia and everything seems to be going well. For instance, Wesley Snipes is here. Hooray! So everything is going fine and dandy, and they're in Somalia and they're shooting people and we have explosions and stuff, and it's all terribly exciting. But then a face from the past emerges. Stonebanks, played by Mel Gibson. He was one of the founders of Barney Ross's little team of murdering psychopaths, and he was presumed to be dead. Of course he was, but now he's back and better than ever. After the Expendables get their asses kicked and Hail Caesar is being critically wounded. By the way, Terry Crews allegedly pleaded to Sylvester Stallone not to kill off his character. After this brush with death, Barney Ross has low self-esteem. He feels that his team is in danger. They are his friends essentially, and he doesn't want to capture Stonebanks and bring him to The Hague for justice. This is a task they're getting from the Bruce Willis replacement guy played by Harrison Ford, because apparently Bruce Willis wanted too much money and they said, fuck it, we're just going to replace you. They literally say he's out of the picture. Harrison Ford tells him to, go and get him so he can be punished for his crime against humanity or something like that. But Barney Ross thinks that Stonebanks is too smart and too dangerous and too just horrible for them to go up against. They might get killed. Barney Ross, you run a guns for hire mercenary kind of a thing. This is not ballet, you're not plumbers or anything like that. This is a dangerous trade. And you're upset because one of your men got critically wounded. It's no laughing matter that Hail Caesar got almost killed, but still. So what does Barney Ross do in this situation? Well, he fires the entire team who has worked together for years. And then he tries, with the help of Kelsey Grammer, hooray, to find a new younger team that will help him take this guy down. And also people he doesn't know, so they are more expendable than the Expendables. Right, so let me see if I've understood this correctly, Mr. Barney Ross, aka Sylvester Stallone. You have an opponent who is too dangerous for you to take on with your current team. So you abandon this current team and you're finding a new team that does not have as much experience as your old team, that doesn't know each other that well and haven't worked together at all. You also have an older team who worked together well, and part of the success of this team was that they had worked together and have been successful because of the good team spirit. Have I understood that correctly? If so, raise your hand, please, Mr. Stallone. Here is my biggest problem with this movie. We are going to introduce close to 12 people. I don't know how many there are. It felt like 12 people at least. That we have never seen before. We're going to do it as rushed as possible. It's more rushed than the introduction of people in Suicide Squad, damn it. And they have no personality at all. And I have no recollection of who they were and what they did. I know that Kellen Lewis was there somewhere, but I couldn't pick him out in a, police line. I knew Ronda Rousey was there because Ronda Rousey is awesome. She was maybe the only part of the new team that I thought actually worked. But all of these things led to an absolute wasteland of entertainment. It was so boring and it was so uninteresting, and it just felt like it went on for hours and hours. I don't know how long it took. 15, 20, 25 minutes of introducing new characters. It was the kiss of death for the movie, but they were able to pick up the business in the third act. Mainly because old team comes back, what a shocker, and also because the ending of the whole thing was pretty spectacular, as they always are in the Expendables movie, but it just felt so unnecessary. And also, you have one of the greatest villains of the freaking decade in this movie. Stone Banks, played by Mel Gibson, has this little scene with Barney Ross in the back of a van where he plays a sort of psychological mind game with him. And I thought, screw the PG-13 rating, screw everything. This will actually be the best Expendable movie I have ever seen, because they have such an amazing villain. They just have this vile, almost Joker-like character who you never don't know what he's going to do, but if you feel like even though he's in chains and you have a gun to his head, he is the one who has the upper hand. And then they just toss him aside for almost the entirety of the movie. So we're spending a considerable amount of time without Mel Gibson, arguably the greatest character in this entire movie. To spend time with characters that we don't care about, that is so interchangeable, I couldn't pick out any of them if you forced me with a gun to my head. But there is one shining light in this movie that can turn this thing around, and it is Antonio Banderas. He is the only guy in this entire boring mess that actually has a fun character, because he really feels like, he doesn't take this serious at all. He's just assing off in the best way possible. I just loved his character. He was so much fun, and I had so much fun with him. And whenever he was on screen, business picked up considerably. Well, as I said, the ending is a fun, action-packed, usual. Lots of mercenaries getting killed by the Expendables, both the young guys and the not so young guys. And this is basically what we're dealing with. Expendables 3 is a good action movie when the action actually comes around to be a part of it. The cast list is very, very impressive. They have so many names from present and the past that you're like, wow! They have more stars in this movie than in the sky, damn it! But then you're realizing they can't really have all of them having, characters. So they basically feel like they're just, there. One of the reasons I really liked this one was how carefree and what a high pace these movies had. This one has considerably less good pace. Maybe it's because this movie is about 20 minutes longer than the previous movies, and you feel the length of this movie. I have rewatched the Expendables movies on multiple occasions because they're fun movies, and they have cheesy dialogue and they have great one-liners and stuff like that. But when you have removed all of the things that made these movies so great, then for a considerable part of the movie, then you're sort of not that interested in this one, actually. Would I recommend this one? Debatable. Considering that this is a movie that isn't as good as the first one or the second one. The story isn't as good. The villain is really good, but is, cast to the side for a considerable amount of screen time. But it is still a pretty entertaining movie when it wants to be. A great finale, and it's fun to see Harrison Ford care a little bit about something. Now all the star power is here, but they're very seldomly used to its full potential. I don't like the tone shift of the movie where the thing sometimes goes a little too dark and too grim and too realistic. Even though the previous movies did have that, it feels like this movie has this in more abundance. The attempts of making a little bit less of a hokey, cheesy action movie, it should be addressed to say, well, at least they tried something. But they probably shouldn't have tried that. What I like to see was an entertaining action movie. This is still entertaining, but when we have the more heartfelt moments and the more serious moments, it's still like, oh crap, we're gonna have to deal with this for a considerable amount of time. I still give this movie a kind of respectable 53 points. This is still a spectacular action movie. The PG-13 rating is not the bane of this movie. It just feels like all the action sequences is a bit more meaningless and a lot less hard-hitting than what it usually was. And it wasn't as fun, but it still is a pretty okay action movie, I would say. So, I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.